Well, it's 6 o'clock and it says, I guess we're done. This class went a lot quicker than I thought it would be. If you'll take your Bibles, turn to 2 Thessalonians chapter 1. I want to read, this is just going to kind of be our launching point for this lesson. But can somebody read verse 9 of 2 Thessalonians 1? And this is the description of what will happen to those who do not know God, verse 8. 2 Thessalonians 1, verse 8, dealing out retribution to those who do not know God and to those who do not obey the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. And what does verse 9 say is going to happen to those people?
Everlasting destruction.
Everlasting destruction. They will pay the penalty of everlasting destruction. And that everlasting destruction takes the form of what? What does it mean to be everlasting destruction? Away from the presence of the Lord and from the glory of His power. So we will have, those people that are lost will have no access to God, and they will have no access to any of His glory or any of His power. And everything that we have in this world is all because of God's glory and His power, right? That's what we have. All that's going to be gone for anybody that does not obey the gospel and refuses to obey God. That's going to be the end for them. So the question that I've got is, why is it then so difficult? And why don't more people obey the gospel?
They don't believe it.
They don't believe it?
They haven't heard it. Never read it.
Haven't heard it, never read it maybe? Now in this country, can you say honestly that I don't know anything about God in America? I've never heard of Jesus. I mean, people can say that, and maybe there's a few they would be honestly saying that. But for the most part, are we not saturated in this country with churches? We've got, you can drive down any street, go down to Knoxville, drive 3-block circle, you're going to see 10 churches, right? There's churches everywhere.
They're empty, though.
They're empty. A lot of them are empty. Those big buildings, yeah, they didn't used to be. They used to be filled. Not as filled as much anymore, Justin.
We have a whole country that's filled with Christians who represent Christ completely wrong. Do a very poor job representing Christ, and when people see the representation of a Christian, so what should be the representation of a Christian, and want nothing to do with Christ because of the representation that Christian is given,
Right.
we have failed.
Had a discussion with a guy today that was exactly the issue. He struggled coming to church because how he was treated 40 years ago at a church. And it still affects him. That stuff affects us. What's some other reasons? Whitney?
Satan keeps us very busy and distracted.
Boy, that's the truth. Yeah, we are very distracted, aren't we? We have access to so much, and so we take advantage of that, and we get ourselves filled to the brim. You know, just think about if you're raising kids today and they're in high school or in middle school for that matter. All the events that you got going on there, right? All of those events. Then you bring in church events that you want your kids to be involved in. And then you've got your family events that you want your kids to be involved in. And then you've got vacation time that you want to... Yeah, we're distracted. That definitely happens. What are some other reasons people don't obey the gospel, you think? Yeah. Yeah, that's true. There are going to be changes we're going to have to make. Some people are going to have to make bigger changes than others. Have you ever ran into people and you see the way they live their life and you're like, boy, if this guy would just, if he was a Christian, he'd be great because he's already living the life. And you see it, but they don't, like Jen, they don't believe in it. So they never do anything about it. There's a lot of reasons that people, for whatever reason, choose not to get involved with the Lord. But verse 9 is what we want to be reminding people of. You can make the decision not to serve God, not to obey the gospel. You can do that. But just understand this is what's going to happen. So if you're willing to pay the price, then go ahead. What was the old Beretta? Remember the old TV show Beretta? If you can't do the time, don't do the crime, right? That's what he would say. He made a living on that show off that. Well, it's kind of the same thing with serving God. You don't have to serve him if you don't want to, but you got to be willing to do the time if you're going to do the crime, right? Just understand that. So we don't want to be shy to share with people what's going to happen if they don't submit. Submitting's hard. Is it hard to be humble? You've got your idea, somebody else has got another idea. Which idea do you think is better? Your idea. Yeah, I always think my idea is better, right? It's hard for us to submit. It's hard for us to take ourselves out of the number one slot and put us all the way to the back. And that's what God asks us to do. He asks us to quit worrying about ourselves and worry about serving God. And when you take yourself out of first place and you put Christ there, it clears up so many things in your life that you don't have to worry about anymore. And so those are also the positive things that we want to try to get out to people. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 1. 1 Timothy chapter 1. So a lot of people are not obedient to the gospel because they don't have all the information. If they knew everything that we know, don't you think a lot more people would be obedient to the gospel if they had more information? Look at what Paul said about his life in verse 13. He said, even though I was, this is 1 Timothy 1:13, even though I was formerly a blasphemer and a persecutor and violently aggressive. What's he say? I was shown mercy because of what? Ignorance. Ignorance and unbelief. I didn't know. So what did Paul not know? He knew the old law well, right? He was forced to brag at one point. Are they Hebrews? I'm more so, right? A Hebrew of Hebrews, taught this way, educated like this. This is how I was raised. This is who I am. To me now, that doesn't matter. At a later point, Paul would even say, all that life that I had before, all that royalty, all that good name that I had, the nice seats, you know, the gowns, all the things, all the praises from all the men. How did Paul later at the end of his life, how did he regard all of that glory that he had in this life? It was just a big pile of refuse. It was worthless. It didn't mean anything. So we have to have that mindset that all the trappings of this life, all the things that are good, that elevate us, sometimes can be things that actually work against us. All those trappings of Paul's former life, that held him back. That prevented him, for whatever reason, from being able to see Jesus for who he was. Because Paul lived at the same time Jesus did, right? He worked against Christ. He worked against the disciples of Jesus. He did everything he could, even to the point of asking for letters of authority so he could go to this city, find people that called on Christ, bind them and bring them back so that they could stand trial. That's where his heart was at. Thought he was doing the right thing because he was serving God. So he thought. So part of our job is to help people come to an understanding, right? Give them information. Because too many times we make decisions with not enough information. Paul was making a decision about Jesus and he didn't know everything about him. Now, once Jesus appeared to him, Paul got a crash course in Jesus. And it changed his world, changed his life, changed a lot of lives around him because of it. So that's what we have to understand. We might be able to do that for somebody. There might be a Paul out there running around that we don't know, and we can teach him something about Christ that he didn't know before, and it changes his life and then changes thousands of lives behind him because of that. That's the power that we have. when we share the gospel, when we take this to people. And sometimes you have to be confrontational. Sometimes you have to call people out. Sometimes you have to say things honestly. But always, whenever we correct or encourage, what do we have to do it? Where does it have to come from? It has to come from a place of love, doesn't it? A place of compassion. A place of, I don't want you to go to that place where the unbelievers are going to go when this world's over. I don't want you to go there. I want you to go and be with Christ. You don't want to go to the other place. So that's what we're trying to do. Any questions, thoughts, comments? Look in Acts. Let's run over here real quick. Acts chapter 3. I think what I'm wanting to get out of this was the scene there at the cross. Acts chapter 3. Oh, well, this is a rehash of Paul. I mean, when Luke wrote his book in Luke or in Acts 3:17, when he's calling out his brethren, if you look up at verse 12, when Peter saw this, he replied to the people, "Men of Israel, why are you amazed at this? Why do you gaze at us as if by our own power or piety we have made him walk? The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of our fathers, has glorified his servant Jesus, the one whom you delivered and disowned in the presence of Pilate when he had decided to release him. But you disowned the Holy One, the righteous one, and asked for a murderer to be granted to you, but put to death the Prince of Life, the one whom God raised from the dead, a fact to which we are witnesses. And on the basis of faith in his name, it is the name of Jesus which has strengthened this man whom you see and know. And the faith which comes through him has given him this perfect health in the presence of you all. And now, brethren, I know that you acted how? They just didn't know. They just didn't know. There was a phrase that an old employer told me years ago. I'd made a mistake on a job. And one of the things he says is, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And there's true. I didn't thought about that. But you don't know what you don't know. How do we know something? How do any of us know anything? Somebody had to teach us, right? There's nothing that you know that somebody didn't help you learn, right? So we're all indebted to somebody that cared enough, whether it's a school teacher, your parent, an aunt, doesn't matter. We all are where we're at because other people helped us along the way. Let me ask you this, if you ever watch the draft, I love watching drafts. The NBA draft, especially the NFL draft, that's my favorite. What do you see these grown, huge men, even men 25 years later going into the Hall of Fame, who are they talking about when they get up there and talk about being thankful for the life that they got to live, this career, this great sport that they've loved all their life? Who do they get up there and talk about? Your mom. Your mom. They get up there and talk about their mom or their brother or somebody that saw in them something. They saw something there and they wanted to encourage that. And this person took that encouragement, blew right through the roof. I watched all afternoon with great frustration T. Higgins take apart my Bears secondary. Ate them up. Had an incredible game. I love T. Higgins. Came out of Oak Ridge. I watched him in high school. Followed him a lot. Was on the radio, called some games that he was in. So it's so fun to watch these kids that become this, whether it's a politician or whether it's a professional football player or whoever it is, they always get up and start thanking people that helped them get there. Every single one of them will do that. They thank their coaches, they thank their parents, they thank their 5th grade English teacher, something crazy, right? They're always thanking people for getting them to where they need to be to. Brethren, that's what we got to do for people in the world. We got to be the ones that say, hey, come here. Let's talk. And let's try to help them. Because they're in a world and they're lost and they don't know. They don't always have all the information. You and I, we've got a lot of information and we can help people. Jesus even talked about how we have to do this. If you go to Matthew 13, look at what he says here. Matthew 13 down in verse 15. And this can be discouraging too. The same thing that can lift us up and encourage us as Christians when we share the gospel with somebody and we see their response, that can lift us up, and not seeing it can do what to us? When you teach and when you practice, when you share, when you care, when you call on somebody, when you're chasing them, you're trying to get them to come to Christ and they don't. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like you failed? I know it's made me feel like I've failed, like I've dropped the ball, like I've done things. But don't they have a responsibility to look for God too? I mean, is it always on us to take the gospel to them? Or do they have a responsibility as well? Let's never forget that all the onus is not on us, right? You didn't have Jesus chasing people down. People came to him, he'd teach them, but if they didn't want to be around him, he'd let them go. So I'm not talking about chasing people down and hounding them, but what I am talking about is being a resource for people, being somebody that they can go to. Look at what Jesus, this is what Jesus had to deal with, and this is what was prophesied about. In verse 14, in their case, the prophecy of Isaiah is being fulfilled. God was talking to them about how they were going to respond to the Christ hundreds of years before Jesus even shows up, right? Notice the language. You will keep on hearing, but you will not understand. You will keep on seeing, but you will not perceive. For the heart of this people has become dull. With their ears they scarcely hear. They have closed their eyes. Otherwise they would see with their eyes, hear with their ears, and understand with their heart and return, and I would heal them. That's where we want to get people to, right there. Get them to Christ, because the only way that they can be healed is if they know Christ. There is no healing without Jesus, right? People trying to come to God through any other way. All the Muslims, I was reading a story, I guess someplace in South America, that a bunch of Christians have been butchered. They've been butchering them down there for a while. And now, I guess words got to Trump, and now he's wanting to go in, guns a-blazing, and kill all those wretched people. I don't know how to respond. I don't know how to respond to that, but are our ears dull? Have we become blind? What happened? What did they do with Stephen? Whenever Stephen was preaching to them, what's the language say that they did? Put their hands over their ears and just started screaming and grabbed him, drug him out of the city, and killed him, right? Are people blind to the truth? Yeah, they are. Are their ears dull from hearing? They are. But here's what we can offer people. Verse 16. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I say to you that many prophets and righteous men desired to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it. Think about that. Many prophets, scriptures even teach us angels, desire to know the things that God is doing, and God's withheld it from them. We've got it. We've got the message. We just have to be able to take it to people. We have to be willing to stand up. We have to be willing to get beat up a little bit. Is the truth worth being abused? Is it worth it? Yeah, Jamie said, I sure hope so. Jesus thought so. Thank you. Yes. What else?
Christ said it sets us free.
It does set you free. But it's hard to understand that freedom when you don't have it. And somebody's trying to bring you that freedom, but they're bringing you that freedom in a way that is not easy. Is it easy to follow Jesus today? Is this a piece of cake? Is it difficult to follow Jesus? It can be. I think, yes, I agree with that. But that's from our perspective now. When you're out in the world, is it easy to become a Christian when you're out in the world? Is it easy to follow Jesus? It's not. It's not, because what does Jesus ask of us? Deny ourselves? How good are we at denying ourselves? We're not. So, but there's value in denying yourself, in taking yourself out of first and putting yourself in the servant's seat. There's tremendous value in that. Remember, that's exactly what Jesus did. Jesus left the cushy seat, did he not? He had a pretty good gig going, in my mind. He had a pretty good job, pretty good place to live, good surroundings, had a pretty nice place. I'd say he had done well. And he gave all that up. He didn't care about and this is still hard for I'll never understand this, how being equal with God was not a thing to be grasped. I think most of us would want to hold on to that. I mean, how many millionaires do you know are willing to just give up their mansion, give up their money, and just go, work for $10 an hour at a Krispy Kreme and live in a real rented place? How many would do that? Let me ask you this: is it easier going up yes, thank you, going up the ladder of prosperity or coming down the ladder of prosperity? It's much tougher coming down, isn't it? It's a whole lot easier going up. Coming down's hard. And that's what you ask people to do. You ask people to take themselves out of that place, put Jesus up there, and you go to the back of the line and you do nothing but serve. That's your job. The rest of your life, you're a servant. Your job is to wash feet, take off the bunions, whatever you got to do to somebody's nasty feet. I don't even know. I think a bunion's I don't know. I don't even know why I brought up that word. I heard my mom talk about bunions in her feet, and she had surgery, and that grossed me out. She had pins sticking out of her feet and toes where they had to break them all, and that's not fun. I don't think that would be a lot of fun to do that. Any comments, any thoughts at all? So here's another difficult thing for me I'll share with you. Go to Luke chapter 23. Luke chapter 23. This is just another example of Jesus doing something that I don't understand. It is certainly true that God's thoughts are higher than our thoughts and God's ways are higher than our ways, because I don't understand this. I do not understand verse 34. Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Really? They don't know what they're doing? They're murdering a man. They don't know that's wrong? They don't understand that it's wrong to put men that will get up and lie about somebody else, will intentionally trash their reputation to get them punished, even death. And Jesus says, forgive them? You know what I want to do to somebody that would do that to my son or my daughter or my grandkids? There was a movie I saw several years ago, and the guy was asked about what he would do to the person that killed his son. And his comment is still stuck with me. He said, how dark is the place that I'm willing to go? And I can remember sitting in the seat and watching that, and my eyes got big. I just went, whoa, how dark is the place? Fred?
I watch a lot of abolitionists rising videos of the guys who go out in the street with the abortion placards and they're saying abortion is murder, and seeing these young ladies and their men go up there and willing to say that child sacrifice is okay. So yes, I can see this very easily, because these kids don't know what they're doing. They're willing to sacrifice their child because of their economic situation.
Right.
And that's what it boils down to. It's just child sacrifice. Yes, I'm willing to sacrifice this baby that I created because it's inconvenient. So yes, I can see this very easily, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't even realize that they call it a clump of cells. Mm-hmm. They've been programmed to not thinking it's a human life.
Well, there's two things going on here, right? One of them is they knew what they were doing was wrong. There's no question in my mind. When they put Jesus up there and lied about him, put him on trial, everybody knew this man was good.
They were doing it for a greater good.
They were.
They were
Right.
doing it for the nation to survive, so they politically were doing the right thing in their minds.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't doing the wrong thing. They were sacrificing Jesus for the purpose of saving the Jewish nation.
Right.
So it was not wrong in their eyes.
Right. That's how Paul got to where he was at, right?
I mean, they think it's, that's, people they will think life is not important as long as whatever the group thinks says, hey, for the greater good, we can sacrifice this person. And
Right.
Jesus was that sacrifice.
Right. One of the best lines that I ever heard Reagan say when he talked about abortion was, I've noticed that all of you that are for abortion have already been born. That always cracked me up. It was like such an obvious thing. Well, of course you can be for abortion because you're already alive and you weren't aborted. Let's ask the aborted babies how they feel about that whole process, right? So there's the idea of they know it's wrong, but they justify it, right? And then we feign ignorance. Oh, I didn't know. Yeah, you did. You knew. You justified it because of fill in the blank, right? Fill in the blank. Money, inconvenience, I don't have the ability, blah, blah, blah. There's always reasons and excuses. Justin?
I don't know if we want to use mics for these longer comments or not.
I'm sorry?
I don't know if we want to use mics for these longer comments or not. Microphones.
Oh, I forgot about the microphones. Do you want a microphone?
It's just longer.
That definitely does help the people at home.
Yeah, it's just a longer one. So I was thinking about that in Ephesians 4, 17 and 18, maybe into 19. It says, "This I say therefore and testify in the Lord, that you should no longer walk as the rest of the Gentiles walk, in the futility of their minds, having their understandings darkened, being alienated from the life of God." Why? Because of the ignorance that is within them. Why? Because of the blindness of their hearts, who being past feeling have given themselves over to lewdness, to work all uncleanness with greediness. Some of this is a willful descent into ignorance. It's a willful ignorance because anything else would convict them.
Right.
And sometimes it's society that does it for them. When you teach someone from the time that they're born that these things are okay, we can't be surprised when they
Right.
grow up thinking these things are okay.
Right.
But the people that are teaching them that they're okay, they know that they're not okay. So we deal with some people in honest ignorance, but we deal with a lot of people in willful ignorance. And their willful ignorance is what leads them into these situations that we find ourselves in society.
So people can either be honestly mistaken or a liar.
And I think you can come across that response pretty quickly when you begin speaking with them.
But when you start teaching the truth, they're going to quit one or the other. They're either going to quit lying or they're going to quit being honest. Right? I mean, that's where you have to get to. And so a lot of times, I think it can begin that way. You get a young 16 and 17-year-old boy and girl. They sleep together. Shockingly, a baby's on the way. Right? And what happens so many times? You're too young for that. You can't take care of that child. You're not prepared for this. You don't have the support group you do. So what's the answer? Well, just go get rid of it. It's just a clump of cells. Just go get rid of it. It's okay. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Yes, you did. You did a lot of things wrong. Okay? You took one bad situation and now you've made it even worse. Right? So I think people will get to the point to where either they will quit being honest or they'll quit being mistaken. That's where they got to get to.
There's a saying, they say there's no such thing as a minor surgery when it's yours.
Yeah.
It's so easy to talk about making the right decision until it's your decision to make.
Right. Very true.
And when it's your decision to make, all of a sudden that thing that is obviously right becomes easily justifiable.
Yeah, that's right. And then we can get confused. What we thought we had a pretty good knowledge of, then we get put in that situation, and now there's a million more questions we'd never even thought about. That can happen, right? That can happen. The best teacher is what? Experience is the best teacher, right? That's the best way to learn. Anybody got any thoughts? Any other questions? Okay, let me see. Where am I at? So when Jesus said, forgive them, they don't understand, what did he mean by that? He's forgiving them, saying they don't understand. What else is in there? Because it isn't just about them not understanding. Do you think there were people that crucified Jesus knew exactly what they were doing? I would think there would have to be some. I mean, especially the elders, the people that were the teachers. Should they have known who Jesus was? And so why was it that the lowly people, the Mary and the Marthas, they recognized him? They saw him. Peter, he was just a fisherman. How did Peter recognize him? When Jesus said, are you going to go away too? What did Peter say? Where are we going to go? You're the only one that's got the words of eternal life. You can't go anywhere else for salvation. You're it. How did Peter know that? And all of these scribes and all these, Pauls, these, Sauls, how did they miss it? Well, they miss it because their heart's covered. They don't want to know the truth. They have their ideas, they have their positions, and you're not going to get in their way. And certainly not this guy. Can anything good come out of Nazareth? I mean, they were looking at Jesus and going, there's no way this is the king. No way. Look at this guy. He eats with these sinners. He hangs around with these ungodly people. And he's going to be the one to lead us.
Don't you think it was the fear?
Fear is a major factor. Sure. What would they have been afraid of?
That they get caught lying the entire time about.
They'd get treated just like Jesus. That's what. Who else did that right at the very end? Peter. Peter denied he even knew him. Why do you think Peter was worried about? That if he acknowledged that yes, I'm a follower of this guy, he's the Son of God. I've watched him raise people from the dead. What do you think they would have done to Peter? Give me another cross. We're going to have another one up here. Right? That's what I would have been afraid of if I'm there. Well, if I get caught up with this guy, they're going to kill me too. So where was Jesus at the end? All by himself. Isn't it sad? It's sad. Think about all of the good that this man did in the world, all the lives that he changed, the people that he raised, the healings. He would go into territories and he would just be healing everybody, right? Bring them, touch his garment, get close to him. Just say the word and my servant will be healed. I know you're a man of authority. You don't have to go there. And how did Jesus respond to that? I haven't seen this kind of faith in Israel, where he should see all the faith. And he sees better faith out of people that should not have that kind of faith. But they understood. They saw the evidence and they appreciated it and accepted it, rather than forming reasons why we can't follow Jesus. This is what a lot of people do today. The abortion's the perfect example of that. Well, I'm too young to have this responsibility. Really? Apparently not. Apparently not. So that's the world that we live in, and that's when we're trying to get people to obey the gospel, one of the things that we're going to run into is they're not going to have all the information, guys. A lot of us have the information because we've been around it all of our life. Tom? Oh, did you raise your? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I saw you raise your hand. Fred's got a microphone. You got something to say? Fred will hook you up. Justin?
I want to take a rabbit trail on Peter for a second.
Okay.
We're really hard on Peter all the time. And you remember the scene, you remember the movie Dances with Wolves?
I do.
There's a scene at the beginning of the movie where Kevin Costner is, he thinks his leg's going to get chopped off, and he takes his horse and he rides it across the whole enemy line.
Yeah.
And he gets to the end and learns that he hasn't been shot. And they're all yelling for him to try that again. And it takes a whole lot more courage to turn around and do it again than it did the first time. And I think that's what Peter had to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the people first came to get Jesus, Peter stepped out in front with a sword and was ready to take some lives.
Yep.
He was ready to do what he needed to do.
He wasn't aiming for his ear, was he?
To protect his master. That's what his goal was.
That's right.
He said, "I will die with you," and he meant it.
Mm-hmm.
But the second time around was a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. And I think we are a whole lot harder on Peter than we are on ourselves, where we can step up and we can be an example the first time around, and if that doesn't work, having to face that thing again.
Right.
How many times do we fail the second time around because it didn't work the first time?
Right.
I feel for Peter.
Yeah. Well,
because he had to, he meant every word of it, and he tried.
and that's why Jesus told him, when you return, feed my sheep. That's why Peter was so upset when Jesus kept asking him, do you love me? That whole thing, because Peter was, don't you think Peter had some guilt? Do you think he felt guilty when Jesus returned and they go to the tomb and he's raised and then he appears to them? Do you think Peter was like, yeah, I didn't really want to, I wouldn't want to look at him. I'd be embarrassed. I let you down. I let you down at a critical time. Even when you told me what I was going to do, I still did it. That's us. That's me. That's exactly. So yeah, we're hard on Peter because we're hard on ourselves. We demand more. And we always want to demand more of ourselves. And Peter was not demanding enough of himself. But to your point, I don't think he did understand. He was ready to die. He didn't take that sword for Snickers. He took that sword for protection, defense. And when they came after his friend, he was aiming for the guy's head, and I think he missed, or the guy ducked or something. And then when Jesus told him to put the sword away, it's like, what? I thought we were in a battle. I thought we were going to fight. I think Peter was confused over some of that. But later, when everything was finally completed, I think Peter recognized where he was at, and then you see a man that's on fire the rest of his life. And even, I don't know if this is true, but the story that we've always heard about Peter's death is that he was crucified upside down because he said he wasn't worthy to be killed the way his master was. Who says that? People that are believing in something false, something that's not real, something that's a lie? To me, that's one of the best evidences for the legitimacy of Jesus in the Scripture is the way his disciples behaved after he didn't rise from the dead. They all went to their graves, died violent deaths over something they knew was a lie? No, that's not how we behave. So we'll talk more about things that scriptures talk about is the folly of sin. Sin for a season. Moses chose to follow God rather than, because he considered what? The riches of Christ? Wait, he didn't know Christ. Well, yeah, I guess he kind of did, didn't he? The riches of Christ was more important than all the riches of Egypt. And he would have had access, think about this, he would have had access to the vast treasuries of Egypt. He was raised in Pharaoh's household. He was educated in Pharaoh's household. This was not an ignorant man, but he made a choice because he saw the evidence. And that's what we got to help people understand. Give them the information, and I think people will make good decisions if they've got good information. So anyway, we'll talk more about this next week. Thank you.